All right, let- let's start.
Ready? Yes.
It's great to be back with another live episode of Trends in AI for April 26th already. How time flies. And so my name is Jakub Zavrel. I'm the founder of Zeta Alpha. And we're going to dive today into a topic which has a lot of people's passion, sovereign AI, especially open source and local AI models. And for that, I could not wish for a better guest panelist than Edwin, who's joining me. Edwin Rijgersberg, formerly at NFI, now started his own company. And he has been one of the pioneers in this space, at least in the Dutch ecosystem, with accomplishments such as the Geitje model, quite famous, and contributing to GPTNL, and still active in that space. What are you working on these days?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. What I'm working on right now is, like you said, I worked for the government for more than 10 years, doing a lot of AI solution building on top of open models. And I drifted more and more towards these Dutch open models, like my hobby project Geitje, like you said before. So I decided, well, let's go full time on this. So late last year, I founded my own company, AI Studio Delta. Currently in the development phase, so not too much details to share today.
Stealth mode still?
What I can tell you, what I'm obviously focused on is Dutch AI, local models, sovereign models, if you want to call them that. Yeah, like I said, not too much detail today, but just one hint. I don't think all models have to be generative. So in the next few months, there will be some announcements, and maybe we can talk about it then.
Right. So I think we'll touch upon many of these topics that have to do with training local models, sovereignty, and open source.
Yes.
So let's dive right in. On the menu, we have lots of different topics. So as you know, in Trends in AI, we always start with the latest news. There's a lot of it actually, and yeah, of course, Anthropic dropped a quite big stone into the pond this week. We'll talk about latest model releases, especially excited about Gemma, open source model.
Yeah, me too.
And we'll talk about what Europe is doing, both in terms of trying to build its own open models, but also kind of promoting this kind of frontier attitude yeah, being a serious contender in the world's AI race. And last but not least, as usually, we also close off with some of our favorite papers of this month. So yeah, this is a bit of old news, really, to start with. But basically, in December, OpenAI declared Code Red, which was kind of funny because about a year earlier, or 1.5 years earlier, Google declared Code Red. So yeah, I guess it's kind of fashion now. But basically, OpenAI said we need to focus, and especially on the things that make the most money, and that led to focus on models which can generate code. And in particular, about a month ago now, we saw the introduction of GPT 5.4, which is a really good model, but very much not considered sovereign by most people. Well, the US, of course, but another recent development in OpenAI is that there was a lot of fanfare about Sora, the video generation model, but they really pulled the plug. A $1 billion partnership with Disney was scuttled, and yeah, the model is no longer continued. I think there were also some concerns about the copyright issues surrounding it, but it's good to focus, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
They made a deal with Disney, but yeah,
No.
no more deal.
I still remember some weird faces when Murati was asked about training on YouTube. And in general, yeah, so last week there was a lot of drama from the boardroom. There was a pretty long piece in the New Yorker on Sam Altman, and I think there's some big risk for OpenAI in terms of the super big infrastructure bets that they're making, and the actual progress they're making in the models.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to see like they're spending now on like products that have not even been envisioned yet, right? So any product that they have right now is just yeah to get some revenue, but they are spending like there's going to be some kind of incredible project that will make trillions of dollars.
Well, they want to do an IPO this year,
Yep.
and for that you need actually a solid story. And on the right-hand side of the highway, they're being uh, overtaken, I think, right? So Anthropic just this week, as a side note to some other news, announced that they have surpassed 30 billion in revenue, mainly driven by their code agent models, which is an enormous increase, and coincidentally also more than the 24 million, which is the latest estimate of OpenAI. So we now have a new king of the hill.
Yeah, and all of this, of course, is nothing in comparison what they want to make, but and this is annualized, so this is like
Yeah, it's kind of it's a guesstimate,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but you can see like there was a big increase in Anthropic usage, which leads to a big increase in revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, to kind of put the cherry on the cake, just 2 days ago, they announced this new system. It was already kind of leaked a little bit
Yeah,
because some parts of the website had been prematurely
there was a
published. There
blog
was a
post. Yeah,
blog post.
you almost said released, but yeah, no,
It's
they
not really released. It's a
announced.
preview,
Yeah.
right? So Claude Mythos preview, and yeah, it has a system card. I thought a system card was this like little thing.
No, 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 no. Card
So
is a bad name. Like a model card can be a few pages, but like these system cards, like 200 pages.
yeah, so this Mythos preview system card is 240 per 4 pages actually. And it's absolutely worth reading. And in it, you find some real gems. It was already speculated during this leak that this model was really a lot better. And yeah, so there's of course no openness about what's actually inside the box, but there is some benchmarks, and basically on very competitive benchmark called Humanities Last Exam (HLE). They, I think, increase the state of the art by about 20%. So is better than the previous model by 50%. So yeah, I think that's a huge increase. And also on coding is very good. On software engineering bench, verified, they're almost maxing it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is what you can read in this model card. You've read some parts of it, and the other parts
Yes,
were
not all 244 pages, but the interesting parts. Yeah. Of course, these benchmarks, yeah, they're self-reported. They're probably not lying, so sure, it's probably better. What's interesting to me is the way they are framing this, right? Like that this model in itself is a huge cybersecurity risk if it goes into the wrong hands, because it's able to find bugs in software that can lead to vulnerabilities to exploits.
yeah, they didn't train it to be that way, right? They basically trained it to be really good at coding
Yeah, just
sometimes.
yeah.
And then they claim that as a side effect of this huge jump of capabilities in coding, you get this kind of yeah, advanced understanding of code and dependencies, being able to correlate vulnerabilities in multiple places and kind of connect the
Yeah.
dots and
Yeah,
all of these
you can
things.
see how that works, right? Like
Yeah.
like you have to find the mistakes, subtle mistakes, or things that can go wrong when you like yeah, like you said, like you interact between different parts of a system. So that's quite a bit of a challenge.
And they have quite the evidence to prove it, right? Because they actually discovered zero-day vulnerabilities in
Yes,
BSD that were sitting there in the code 27 years,
that's true.
in Linux, in web browsers.
Of course, like this goes, there was already a very heated debate about this. Like how hard is this? There is a blog post that says like, well, we tried some small models and they found the same vulnerabilities. But then you look closely at that blog post and you see, well, they gave it the code that had the bug in it, and the context hints of what could be wrong with it, and then it figured out what was wrong with it. And it's like, okay, sure. There's a good argument to be made that maybe you don't need like the biggest model ever trained to do some of this. You just need a bunch of small models and a good harness. That's what they also say. Just like Cloud Code is like a very good like programming help harness. That's not really machine learning, just great software for this very specific type of security research. It really helps to have a good harness. But yeah, I think software always was like a house of cards. Like if you pull the wrong card, it all collapses because every software has bugs, and it's been a race, like with finding the bugs, having the quote unquote good actors find them first and fix them. And you can see there is a lot of value in these exploits too already. You can trade a good exploit on the black market for like millions of euros. And this model claims to be able to increase that tenfold.
Yeah. So they use that as an argument to actually not release it, right?
Because they need a defense.
Because of the risk.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that in a second. But on the other hand, it's also a very large model, right? The rumors are that this is the first model of the 10 trillion parameter class.
Yeah.
Probably a mixture of experts, but yeah, it's like an order of magnitude bigger than the previous models. So it's not only maybe risky, but it's also very large and therefore very expensive to serve. So,
yes, that's what we know. We know it is very expensive to serve.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't think we quite know if it's a larger model or just doing a lot of like inference time compute, like basically thinking for longer. It's probably a combination of both.
So I think the big question is, will we ever see it? And after all, the name, what does mythos mean in Greek?
It's a myth, yeah.
Right? So we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe you can place your bets on the prediction
Oh no!
markets.
Don't get me started about the gambling markets. But no, what will be interesting to see is if they release it eventually or a variant of this, because it could be really like a transition point where they go from models that are like freely available by API to models that are like only available to like trusted customers that will not distill their models from using the API. Or if it's just a temporary thing that they really believe like we have this temporary like inflection point in cybersecurity. We need to take some time to get over that hill, and then we're all back to normal again. I honestly don't know. We'll have to see.
So this kind of brings us to our next slide, the Project Glasswing. So this is the select club, right, of the critical infrastructure software providers that have been invited to actually test it.
Yes.
So these are the only guys who have it available, and Ethan Mollick, he was invited to test it. So there's a few. Like
I looked at the list. It's like the usual suspect, right? It's like Microsoft, Amazon. It is the Linux Foundation. You said it's the only entities allowed to use it. I'm not so sure if
so there are some like influencers and journalists who have actually.
I was thinking more like the American Department of Defense.
Well, Anthropic has a little bit of a thing going on with them right now. So
exactly. They have some hard lines, but those hard lines are mostly concerning like automatic murder and spying on Americans. So there's nothing about spying on Europeans in their red lines. So we'll see about that.
All right. So let's run through some other notable releases. Actually, yesterday, Meta put their cards back on the table, their model cards. So the new super intelligent crew at Meta actually released their first model called Muse Spark. It's the first model since sort of the big organization reshuffle where all the Llama people were basically ditched. And yeah, it seems to be a pretty decent model. I don't know if you can read all these benchmark figures, but on all the sort of common benchmark, including ArcAGI and Humanities Last Exam and Software Engineering Bench, yeah, it has very competitive performance. But for me, it's like a Me Too model. Like, in the sense of now Meta also has their own sort of competitive model, but nobody is actually going to use it outside of Meta. I don't think it's offered as an API. And they've certainly left sort of their open weights strategy.
Yes, definitely. There were some vague promises of maybe some versions, some models will be at some time released, but it's really different from the Llama. The meta we knew from the Llama models. That's really
One thing is for sure, it's been the most expensive model ever built with all the org changes and and all that acquisition of scale AI and everything. All right, so a couple other notable models is Qwen from Alibaba. So they released both a 3.5 Omni model, so it's kind of extremely multimodal with voice and video and images and everything, and a new tick up, Qwen 3.6, which is supposedly the kind of the agentic strong model. And if you look at the benchmark, it is really very good. It is up there with sort of the top closed models and top open source models. But it's not open.
not
So
open
3.5
yet.
was pretty open, but
Yes,
3.6, no
3.5
more
was
to say.
already very good and open. If I remember correctly, like the largest model, they have made no promises, but of the smaller models, they have like made some more concrete promises that will be released soon. So it could be even as early as next week, I think, that
We'll
there
see.
will
Yeah.
be some of these models. But it's interesting, just like Meta, they had some turbulent times of
A lot of people left the Qwen team,
yeah,
right?
some leadership reorganization. So it will be good to see that they have at least some commitment to releasing open source models.
But who has really come through on open source is Google with the release this week of Gemma 4.
Yeah.
Gemma is kind of the open source version of the Gemini models, you could say, right? Nobody knows it actually has the same architecture. But it's already the fourth generation in that line. And what they claim, it's kind of the most capable model in the small models kind of range. So here in this graph, you see that they achieve performance kind of similar to the largest Qwen model, and GLM5 and Kimi K2.5, with models that are really kind of in the category that you can run them on your own hardware. So that's very exciting.
Have you yet? Have you tried it yet?
I've not tried it yet.
I've tried only a little bit. The 26 billion mixture of experts model, that is like it can run on like my 4.5-year-old computer, and it's actually pretty good. Like for smallish models on Dutch, it really impressed me on not just on how fluent it is in Dutch, but also like the knowledge. Like it knew about Bassi and Adriaan, which is always my my test.
That's your test.
And I know it's a stupid test because it's testing like one little small fact, but it really distinguishes the good models from the bad models in my experience. And my experience before this was that the smallish models that were like the dense models that have like a lot of active parameters, they were good in these types of things. But this is the first time actually I can run something that is a mixture of experts on my laptop that has similar performance. And the reason that matters is a low active parameter count means it's fast.
Yeah.
Like it generates a lot of tokens, and especially if I ever get a new laptop, then they will probably scream on that laptop. So.
And they claim to know Bastien and Adriaan in 140 languages. So
I haven't tried.
But then the local version.
Only 139 to test.
And support for agentic like tool use and agentic workflows, reasoning, and multimodal. And it's a Apache 2 license.
That's new. The previous models were some kind of custom license.
But they had this kind of Gemma license.
Yes. Yeah. And there was like I remember, I think, don't compete with us. If you're Apple, you're not allowed to use it, things like that. But now it's just Apache 2.0, do whatever. And I suspect this is...
Now that they have Apple as a customer, they scrap
that. That could be. I also suspect it is like competition by the Chinese models that have standard permissive licenses that they
that's
feel
definitely like a big incentive to capture the hearts and minds of the developers.
And that's good. I think we all benefit from that.
Absolutely. So great candidate model. Of course, brand new, so we'll hear about the experiences with it. And kind of, if you look at these numbers, they're all very high, right? So like all the
Yes,
benchmarks,
number goes up. Yes.
the number goes up, all kind of in the 90s, high 80s. So I think we should talk about that a little bit. So this is a graph from LLM Stats, which shows for kind of all the major benchmarks like AIM and MMLU and GPQA and Software Engineering Bench, the progress over time. I mean, it is pretty insane, right? Like it's just going very
The
fast
speed,
towards
the speed is
100.
very fast. Yeah, we saturate one benchmark, we have to create a new one, and just in a couple of years, I don't know the scale. Like in 1 year, it
I
goes.
mean, like Arc 2 went in
Yeah.
1 year from almost 0 to almost 100, right? And now
Yes.
there we have Arc 3, which is
Yes.
pretty
And
complicated.
we hope they're not just all optimizing for the benchmark in that 1 year, but
Well,
we have some
there
very.
are some rumors about that, right? So,
Yeah, and certainly some optimization is going on. Like probably not outright cheating, although we will never know. But surely, like you optimize for the task you are measuring, and that leads to a little bit of the measurement no longer being optimum measurements. But yeah, just the broad strokes, we just see the capabilities of the models going up, 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 and I think
well,
that correlates
I think
with
if
what we
you look
know.
in
But
terms of data availability, right? The data availability is not an easy thing, but these days the models are trained on a lot of synthetic data.
yes,
And so I think that's kind of where the cheating gray zone
I have a very
lies.
specific example. So you NVIDIA creates the Nemotron models, and those are like very open, like they have open training data, and their reports mentions they have synthetic MMLU-like data. So that's like general math sciences, that kind of data. So what they did is they took the training set of the MMLU benchmark. They used LLMs to create synthetic data like those
No,
training examples. And I think they made 1.7 billion tokens of synthetic benchmark data
yeah,
trained on that, and now it's better at benchmark at the bench.
sounds
But
like a great
yeah,
idea
they even
if it
did
generalizes, right?
they even did like ablations on how much that helps, and it helps like 0.2% on the benchmark. But
No,
yeah, this is the scale of like optimizing
no,
for benchmarks for tasks, whatever
no.
your
But I
field
think
is.
the sort of the gray zone becomes a bit more dangerous when the generalization is not there, right? And we've seen
Yes,
some discussions online where models are very good on some benchmarks and then like very much not good on very similar tasks,
it
and
is.
that's where
It's my opinion that if you run a company and you want to use LLMs for something important, you have to have an internal benchmark
you have
just
to
of
test
private
on what
data.
actually matters for
Yeah,
you.
and make sure it's up
Yeah.
to date, make sure there's no data leakage.
And then actually training on synthetic data, which is like your own internal benchmark, might be a good idea.
Maybe,
Who
huh?
knows? Um, all right. So yeah, benchmarks are saturating. New benchmarks are coming. So you always need to check whether particular open or closed models work for you. In fact, with Zeta Alpha, we work on that kind of customization for company-specific enterprise data. So basically, the AI platform to discover and organize knowledge inside companies. So just a quick commercial break. This is our platform. You can discover and chat with your own enterprise content using AI models to search, but also to run agents on top of it, organize your projects in personalized collections, share them with your team, and basically be more productive on your company internal data. I just want to give a very short sneak preview of something that is almost ready for release. I call it the Zeta Alpha Super Agent. I think Fernando here does not like that name, but he called it the main agent, which is also not a great name. So I think the naming contest is still open. But basically, we're adding kind of this modern agentic harness to Zeta Alpha by introducing skills, by introducing memory, by introducing multi-agent workflows where you can have orchestrated delegates to sub-agents, um, improving a lot the platform tool awareness, so the agents actually know all the tools in the platform and can use them effectively, from search all the way to keeping memory and understanding of your skills. And basically, that makes Zeta Alpha a personalized multi-agents AI system for enterprise teams. Just want to show you a very quick sneak preview. So I've been using it here to actually try to cheat my way through this webinar. Just make very quickly some slides for this presentation. I did not use those, of course. I'm all about authenticity. But here you see that I'm kind of introducing who I am and what I'm about to do, and it will save some factual memory, and then I can save it as a skill, and it will actually create this kind of editable and transparent large-scale plan of how to attack this task and remember that for the next time. If I don't like it, I can change the skill and use it later. And here you see that it indeed remembers for future interactions who I am. So yeah, that's going to be released in 2 weeks from now in our platform. And of course, on top of that, you have all the enterprise features like sharing and integration into your enterprise IT. And so we think at Zeta Alpha that sovereignty in AI is actually not in the foundation models, but in the application layer, in the control over your own data, control over where you host the system on-prem, how you integrate it into your IT infrastructure, and who owns the modifications, the customizations that you make, which we demonstrate, for example, in our collaboration with the German um, cloud provider Ödev, part of the Oetker Group. But I won't go into that much because we're diving into our core topic of this webinar, which is sovereign AI.
Sovereign AI, yes.
So is this a definition question?
If you're asking me for the definition of sovereign AI, I'm not sure I can give you the full definition.
Well,
But
maybe
for me, yeah.
What are some like associations, some concepts that immediately spring to mind when you think about sovereignty?
For me, it's mostly about dependencies. Like, am I dependent on other people, other companies, other countries to, yeah, if you're a business, to do my business, if I'm a government, to perform services for citizens. And I think that if you think about it in the forms of a dependency, you naturally get like a scale in time, right? So if you use Azure data center, as the government, hypothetically, and someone pulls the plug in America, then you're like dependent on them, and the timeline of concern is like very short, right? They can pull the plug and nothing works. DigiData doesn't work anymore. There are also more long-term dependencies in which I think is more like the models, like open source models. You can run them in your own data center. No one can grab them away from you, right? But probably you're going to need a new model like every year or every year.
Yeah, the models are improving very rapidly. Actually, having your own local model and it's open source and everything doesn't guarantee you a place in the performance of next year or the years after.
Exactly. And is that a problem for you? Well, that depends. If you are the government, you don't have any competition. Maybe it's not a problem if you don't get the latest and greatest model. But if you are a company and you're like competing with other companies and you suddenly lose your access to the latest models you need to be innovative, and then it becomes more of a problem. So I think it's very good that all of us are starting to think about this, like what have we actually built?
Certainly in the last year or so, a lot of people have started to think about it.
Yes, we should have thought about it sooner, but yeah, that's what we do, right? There's a crisis and it wakes us up, and then we act. And
so I see sovereignty a little bit as a different aspect, and I think sovereignty is really about safety.
Okay.
Right. So it's not per se about your your independence and your nationalism and your kind of you know privacy rules and regulations. It's really more about what is the risk of actually something going wrong. What is the risk of actually somebody pulling that plug? What is the risk of not being able to upgrade? Or what is the risk of using something that's black box and where you don't have
Yes.
any insight or any ability to influence what's in there?
Yeah, that's a good point. The last point about the black boxness is you hear that a lot about we as Europe or as the Netherlands, we need to be able to create our own models just because so that we know what went into it. There are no either backdoors, like deliberately, or some biases that maybe we don't want or that are hidden in there and that can lead to adverse effects. Um, yeah.
So I think everybody has kind of their own flavor,
Yeah, and
but I think
is that a problem?
local LLMs and open source have something to do with it, right? Like
Yes,
obviously,
sure, obviously.
if you have stuff that is very open, so you can kind of recreate it or even build the next generation yourself,
Yes.
and you can run it locally on your own infrastructure. That kind of feels better, right?
It's
On the gradient of
yeah,
sovereignty.
yeah. It feels better. It increases trust. I think it is better, right? It's objectively better to have like a box you can inspect than just a black box.
For techies, it certainly is.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's dive into those themes. So kind of going back to the frontier models, right? So this is the current leaderboard. Of course, Mythos Preview nor Muse Spark are on there yet.
If there's no API, it doesn't
As,
exist.
nobody can test them. So Cloud Opus 4.6 is kind of the leading model at the moment. Gemini 3.1 Pro, GPT 5.4. Then, interestingly, GLM5 from Shipu AI, Chinese model, which is actually open, right?
Yes,
And
it's open weights.
then I see kind of on the bottom of the list Kimi, which is also an open model. I don't know if this version is actually open, but
I think it is.
so that kind of brings us to the topic of model serving, because you have good open models, which are frontier class,
Hmm.
but can you actually run them? So I want to kind of briefly diverge into the topic of local model serving, which you probably have more hands-on experience with than I do. But um, basically, what everybody's seeing is that open weight models are now strong enough for, most basic use cases. The best open models, you can do pretty much everything that you would like to do today. Would you agree?
Yes, except for like specialized use cases or like very high demanding things. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then this is recent, right? Like a few years ago, like the small models, like my Geitje was like 7 billion model. I mean, it was cool for especially for me, but it was basically a toy, right? You would probably not use it for very many critical applications because it wasn't intelligent enough in big air quotes.
Yeah.
Like it
For
could
those who don't know, Geitje is I think a Dutch flavored fine tune of the
yes.
Mistral 7B model, right?
Exactly. So it's like 2.5 years old now, and it was continued pre-training
Oh,
actually. So that means you take the base model and you train it on a lot of Dutch text to get better in Dutch. Why would you do that? Well, because these models were very bad at Dutch, just basically bad.
yeah.
And
No
uh,
Basti and Adriaan,
no, not at
not
all.
of that.
No. That's the origin of the test actually. Yes, because Geitje knew about Bastien
Uh,
Adriaan. But fast forward two and a
I
half
think you
years.
cheated. You just told it about Basti and Adriaan.
It's open way. No. Let's not talk about the data
Okay,
about of
okay.
Gijs.
We'll come to that.
Sensitive.
There was a bit of
Yes.
touchy topic, right? You know all about copyright issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Okay,
but it's emergent
let's
property,
return to
right?
the
Yes.
local inference. Yeah,
Fast forward, and you have like small models that are actually pretty good, pretty useful.
yeah,
Especially the new gamma models that I tried. I was very impressed.
yeah.
And
So basically, everybody can now run a pretty state-of-the-art model on their laptop, even on their phone, I think, to some
some of the small
extent,
models,
right?
yes.
And somewhat larger models, kind of in the mid-range, you can run them on a decent workstation with one GPU or maybe two GPUs. Yeah, once you get kind of into the 70 billion range, a lot of this depends on quantization, obviously, right? You cannot run the full precision models usually.
Yeah, you can no
Uh,
longer run it on consumer hardware except maybe some high-end Apple hardware, which is just as expensive as a workstation video
Yeah.
card. So.
So then you need kind of higher end GPU, and of course you see that kind of the big models, and really for production level serving with many concurrent users and all the optimizations for that for high throughput, you do need multi GPU setups.
Yes.
And then kind of like you can start really easily with Olama, right? But yeah, when you kind of want to really achieve something, you need to move to more specialized inference frameworks like VLLM or Glang or TensorRT. Somebody's still using TensorFlow.
And you see that the models influence the hardware and the hardware influences the models. So many models are trained so that they can be used at scale at like one H100 video card or one node, server node with 8 H100 video cards, because the companies that train these models, they also are going to use inference on them. So it's in their interest to to optimize that.
Yeah, models which actually are cost effective to serve.
Yes.
Also, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think kind of the winning stack is a good model, plus quantization, plus the right inference engine, and it still helps to have a good GPU. So what are some of the sort of currently interesting open source, open weights? Let's maybe not have that discussion, but models that you can run locally. I think these are kind of right now pretty good models families. So the QN family from 3.5 from Alibaba, which is fully open, available in many different sizes. You also see that with Gemma, that is available for very small models up to pretty big models. A lot of people seemed to prefer GPT OSS because it was kind of familiar for people working with OpenAI.
It's really having a long life, right? It's getting old.
Yeah.
People are still using it, and I think because they're happy with it, like performs very well on a lot of tasks.
Yeah, but actually, I think you need the 120 billion model to be any good.
It's not that easy to run, but it is efficient.
And DeepSeek,
very, very large models. They have some smaller models, but they are not the real DeepSeek.
Yeah, the smaller models are actually not that good, right? So you need like a pretty big setup to run the real DeepSeek models. So I think kind of QN, Gemma 4, and Mistral.
Yeah, don't forget them.
Yeah, so Mistral just introduced, we'll talk about this a bit more later, just recently introduced the small 4 model, which is a new generation, which a bit like Gemma unifies all these different capabilities. So basically chat, reasoning, multimodal, and agentic coding. And it's from a European maker. So does that make us sovereign if we all use Mistral?
It makes us more sovereign.
More sovereign.
More sovereign.
Sorry. But it's owned by a private company, so
I think we have to repeat the question for the audience.
Yeah, so the question here from the audience was, why does, let's say, using an open model from a private company make us more sovereign? Well, it's kind of a scale, right? So if it's not open, you don't have you don't have many capabilities to run it locally, for example. But if it's owned by a Chinese company, obviously it also has different kind of alignments, right? So for example, China has a very active government regulation on AI capabilities, and the number one rule of that regulation is that it has to be aligned with the values of the Chinese Communist Party. Wow, I think that makes a difference. Maybe not in all use cases, but
I think there's another factor that's also about legality. I'm not sure if I want to phrase that under sovereignty, but in theory, Mistral has been trained in Europe under European legislation, European copyright law, European GDPR. And models from other countries don't necessarily have to have complied with that during training. Now, there are some laws of Europe that try to extend their reach to the whole world. For example, the AI Act explicitly does that. If you want to bring your model to the EU, we don't care where you trained it. We want you to abide by our laws. But yeah, it also gives us more ability to steer these companies, to steer these models. But yeah, I think you're really right that it is
So we're
a small step on the scale.
running also a little bit into this discussion more of, let's say, politics than
Yeah, sure.
than
Yeah,
technology. So let's dive into that.
they are
We have a
intertwined.
like what is the strategy of Europe in this kind of bigger picture? If you look back at this leaderboard, well, there's a lot of frontier models, even some open source ones, but actually none of them are European on the first page. I think sort of the open source dimension is one aspect that Europe should really capitalize on, or like strongly embrace. Because what we see is that actually the open source models, again, this is taken from LLM stats, the open source models are like narrowing the gap to the best frontier models by sort of these
Yes.
saturating benchmarks. And in fact, right now, before Mythos preview is not here yet, but it's also not released, the gap is only about 6 months.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty promising.
It has been closing, right? I remember it was like 1 year and it starts to close. Yeah.
However, if we look at the ranking of the open models, this is the country of origin here. Almost all of them are Chinese. And Mistral is in fact the first entry here. This was before the Mistral small model.
So they should be applauded for this, right?
Absolutely.
Like they did a good job, at least in performance. Yeah.
Also, the difference are not that large, right?
And they're making them open. But I mean, that is like they're not keeping them for themselves. They are releasing it to the public to use.
If you look, however, at the sort of the frontiers, pretty good model, but in the overall ranking, it doesn't come until page 2. So it's a little bit behind, I think. All right, so European champions. Obviously, Mistral is now partially owned by our Dutch ASML.
Yes, they invested. They had some money left over, so they invested in it.
I think there was a phone call from the French president, probably.
I have to know that the CEO of ASML is also French. We will never know what happened there. But, they are taking an interest. They're using their money to invest in Europe. It's nice.
It's definitely a strong contender in the space, and with the small 4 model releasing that under Apache 2 license is, I think, a power move. They're well financed because of ASML, among other things. I kind of in the application space, so what I see is Mistral is kind of shifting from the frontier space to the application, the enterprise space.
Yes, they're really focusing on
and I think that's maybe where some cracks in the image appear, because like if you want in an enterprise to have the best model for a particular task, it will not always be a Mistral model, right? So kind of this like, yeah, we're European, that might not be sufficient to win enterprise deals.
Oh, sure. But what I like is they seem to be focusing on building a sustainable business now that earns more money than it spends, and that's something I actually really like. It's like we're not they don't seem to be speculating on some kind of science fiction AI that's going to take over. But basically replace every worker by technology, right? That's what the American companies are investing on and betting on. And I don't know if Mistral doesn't want that or just is unable to. The move into enterprise is a broader trend that we see the last.
Obviously, playing in that ourselves as well.
Yes, I mean, and that's where the money is, right? And there's no shame in that.
So let's look at some of the other European candidates. Well, since you worked on this one, we have to include it. GPT-NL, probably not so famous globally, but
it's getting a lot of attention in Europe, I would say. Yeah.
So basically, GPT-NL. Well, you can present the project in a better way, but
yeah. Let me clarify. So I worked for the Netherlands Forensic Institute, which is a small partner in the GPT-NL project, and I was head of benchmarking and evaluation. which was a work package that I basically created myself. Like I said, I don't work for the government anymore, so I have not done any benchmarks of this model. I don't know the performance, but what I've worked on is creating better Dutch language benchmarks that are going to be released open source, so we can compare these models a lot better on like proper Dutch benchmarks. So back to GPTNL.
It's a fairly small project, right? It was only 13.5 million euros, which for creating a frontier model is probably not sufficient.
No, I would say no. Just the compute by itself would worth that. But it is a sizable tax money investment, right? So I can summarize GPTNL very, very briefly. They want to make the most ethical model they can on a lot of the different axes. One of the main axes is on copyright. So there is one thing that distinguishes GPTNL from basically every other model in the world except for one. And all of their data is opt-in. So it's either a data set on the internet with an explicit license, very liberal license, or it was donated to the GPTNL project, either for free or in return they get a slice of the revenue. Yeah.
So the most ethical model in the world.
Yeah.
And recently, kind of the progress report was published, but unfortunately, this has not, like in my opinion, not played out in the best way. So there are some first users actually testing the model, and kind of it's not openly available, and it's also not very good.
Well, because I would have liked to see some benchmark scores in this progress report, but that we don't have. No, it was never meant
so it's claimed to be kind of on the level of GPT 3.
GPT-3
like
and Llama 2 8 billion. Those were the goals. So those are old models. And the interesting thing is I think we've all forgotten how bad the initial ChatGPT was, like how much hallucinations, how much logical errors. Like we've just forgotten because the models got better and better. But yeah, so they're explicitly not touching the frontier, not even close to the frontier, not Mistral level. They're saying, how far can we get with a limited investment with these requirements, focusing mainly on the copyright?
So it's kind of a very interesting exercise, and I think a lot of that is around the data, right? These copyright issues. Here we have another slide which says
this is the definition of success. So this is the goal they're setting for themselves.
Yeah, so I think that's a very kind of low level of ambition for 2026. Here we have a slide on a little bit on the data set, right? Which you have.
So the data set was released 2 days ago, I think. So GPTNL, it was a 2-year project, and now continuing with the evaluations. So they've been collecting data with the opt-in method. And in the bottom half here, you can see the number of tokens in the training set. And if you look at the Dutch, it is about, give or take, 55 billion tokens of Dutch, which is comparatively very, very low.
Yeah, it's like about 1 order of magnitude less than what the other models are trained on.
Maybe 2. Like a Llama 2, Llama 3, they were trained on like 4 trillion. So that is 4,000 billion. That's many, many, many times more than these data. So what they did in GPTNL is, well, we have to have some kind of other data, right? So they used English, open English data. They used a lot of code. You can see 200 billion tokens of code, and did some translations. But in the end, we have to realize that in order to do this experiment with the opt-in data and do it for Dutch, you're basically doing 2 hard things at the same time. Like training a Dutch model is already hard because there is much less Dutch available than English, and doing it in this way is also hard. So basically, you're running 2 experiments at the same time, which my physics professors would always tell me, pick one variable and do the experiment. But yeah, this is what they did. And to their credit, they of all of the open data they collected and curated, they have put it 2 days ago. They've put the data online. It's on Hugging Face. You can download it, and it's
You've made a little viewer for it, the random GPT and all that.
yeah, because I think that's very important. Anything you do in machine learning, you look at the data. You can learn so much more by looking at the data than
I use it a little bit
looking
today,
at
and it's basically code.
it's half code, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of English. You have to look for the Dutch. Well, one side note, of course, there is the proprietary data in Dutch that is
Which was not released,
released.
no.
So there is about 2 times as much Dutch used in training than you see in this open code. Like for every Dutch document you encounter in the open data, there is another one that is proprietary.
Well, I think we have to move on to the next model,
Yeah,
European
sure.
contender, which is a Swiss model. So a country about the same size, actually a project about the same size. I talk about Apertus, which is the open model released by EPFL, ETH, and other Swiss parties, completely open,
Yes.
and it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially
So
when it came
on
out.
benchmarks, like for
Reasonable.
this type of model, it's pretty good. So why is that? What is the main difference
The
here?
main difference is data.
Is the data.
Is data. So they used web crawls, which is legal in Europe and in Switzerland as well, as long as you respect opt-outs.
Yeah.
But so they had for Apertus, I think over 100 billion tokens of Dutch from the web. And that together with a lot of English and German and just the total size of the data set is much bigger. The absolute size of the Dutch in the data set is much bigger, and all of that together with a larger model as well and more compute, that just leads to something that is roughly competitive
decent.
to
Yeah.
like Llama level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for many tasks, this is a very usable model. This is not a toy.
So my main question in the back of my mind is like, should all countries, like if they want to be sovereign, Apertus for Switzerland, GPTNL, isn't that very like fragmented?
Yes.
So I think the answer is yes. Like pooling that is definitely makes sense, which brings kind of the discussion to Euro LLM, right? So that has quite a lot more funding. It's also a bigger model. And actually that one is performing quite well on the benchmarks as well, right? It's comparable to at least like, let's say, Almo 3, which is, I would say, internationally kind of for fully open models, the current state of the art.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very reasonable size as well. It's about the Gamma 4 size, the Mistral Small, the GPTNL. Like it's a very manageable size, this model, and I think it performs about as well as Apertus does. Again, the difference here, more data, I think even more bigger training set, and they used a different web crawl data set from the European Union funded, and I think this is even 160 billion of tokens of Dutch in here.
So I think if we're looking kind of at European projects, this one already has more funding, and it's probably one of the best candidates to like pool the funding in Europe on projects like this.
Yes, you're not going to like this, but there's also another European project called Open Euro LLM, which is different than the Euro.
It's not the same one.
No. But I think there was some cooperation there. But it's,
all right. We don't have a slide on that.
no,
they're
still working on their big models.
We're almost at the end of the hour. So one topic that we touched upon already is this data and this whole copyright issue, which actually is receiving a lot of attention in the legislative and regulatory space. So I think people should be aware that at the end of March, this Axel Voss report, as it's called, or the report on copyright and generative artificial intelligence, was adopted by European Parliament with a huge majority. Yeah. Almost like a 90% majority. Yeah, I'm very concerned about this.
I see it in the slides.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to be objective here, but so what basically this report proposes is that every maker of AI models has to have a very thorough administration of every piece of data that went into their training set. Right?
Yes.
Like if you
Yeah,
look at the
detailed
European AI Act, it also has some like requirements on copyright
to create a summary of your training data.
But this is like on the individual, like Bassi and Adrian would have to agree to be in your corpus almost. Right?
Well, you'd have to say that you trained on the website of Bosnia and Adrian, and not just Bosnia and Adrian website, but every single page on the website. You have to publish
and not only like Mistral or OpenAI or Anthropic, but also Edwin Rijgersberg training his own model would have to do that. So I think that's like for me as a developer, or even for open source or for researchers, that's kind of a nightmare because it would hit everybody. Fortunately, this is not a law yet.
No.
It's like a project proposal, more or less, but it could become law.
I
So
understand.
I think we need to act.
I understand where you're coming from. Like there is a risk of like incredible burden of like administration. I also think that this transparency, if you actually enforce it, so not just make the European researchers do it, but make OpenAI do it, make Anthropic do it, then you create like a level playing field, right? Like the AI Act was trying to do, but failing because they didn't push through enough in their requirements for transparency. This is radically transparent, and
so level playing field is good, but I think actually like much more the proposal by Mistral that was recently forwarded. So they got a lot of flack for this because they all the sort of AI enthusiasts said, well, don't build better models, don't build taxes. So Arthur Mensch from the Mistral CEO kind of proposed, well, let's kind of do this in a different way. We understand that there's a problem with compensating creators, right? Which is at the heart of the Axel Voss report, is the need to make sure that that there's compensation for creators.
Yes.
Right? Let's just do a general sort of small percentage AI tax to settle this administrative burden for everybody. Of course, on the creator side, it's still complicated, but then
like you did for copying CDs, right?
Like on
cassettes or CDs. Having is it in Dutch? Yeah. What do you think about that?
I like the proposal because it's very simple and it can do the job, and it can basically create both a level playing field that you described, and also kind of give every AI developer legal certainty, which I think is a win-win.
It's very easy on the developer, right? You just pay some money. It's slightly more complicated on the creator side, like who's going to get what percentage of this money.
But we have some experiences with that.
This is a solved problem. Yes, I'm not sure I'm happy with that, but yeah. I have to say, as a small developer, it is very tempting if I can just spend a percentage of my revenue especially, and make sure the owners are compensated, and I can use the data. That's
and
really nice.
If you're a researcher, for example, you have no revenue, so you're kind of outside this.
You're automatically exempt because you have no revenue.
I think it's an elegant proposal. All right, so actually, OpenAI kind of weighed on it this 2 days ago with a similar proposal, but I don't think we have time to discuss that.
This is nice science,
which is kind of more going into the area of universal basic income redistribution of let's not go there.
Replacing all work with technology. Yes.
So we're at the hour, so we're running a little bit over time, but if you like to stay, we still have about 5 minutes, and we would like to shout out one scoop, which is kind of in this frontier model space in Europe. There's a pretty big event coming up, which is that the German innovation agency Sprint, it's kind of Germany's DARPA, as they say, is announcing 125 million in non-dilutive funding for groups that are interested to build the next frontier lab in Europe.
Yes,
I think that's a pretty big deal.
They're really trying to create companies.
Very interesting about this is it's a German money, but it's going to be distributed all over Europe. Any European group can participate. And our scoop is that they have a couple of road shows that are going to be organized around this topic. And at the end of this month, this is going to be right here in Lab 42. So you can sign up through luma.com NFAI and hear all about the details of that.
Yeah, if you want to start the next Mistral, you can. You should be here, I guess, for that.
Maybe Mistral can
I think there are
compete for the money, but yeah, I don't know what the exact rules
no.
are.
This is for startups, right? This is
for researchers for
yeah.
kind of next frontier level
Yeah.
ideas, not for established labs.
Exactly.
All right, so that kind of brings us to the last thing. I will just kind of quickly run through this. A few research papers, just want to shout out that I think are super interesting to read. One that is definitely worth reading is a paper called Hyper Agents. So I think we've been talking a lot about sovereignty in terms of frontier models, the kind of these big, big, very capable, intelligent models. But a lot of the space is actually going in the direction of multi-agent systems. And if you have multi-agent systems where swarms of agents cooperate, optimizing that is something completely different. So I think that opens up the playing field for Europe, for new labs, and for applications. And this is a very cool paper. So basically, they expand the Darwin-Gödel machine that not everybody probably knows, but it's kind of a evolutionary approach to optimizing multi-agent systems. And they expand it in an interesting way, what they call hyper agents, by combining them with kind of a co-evolution with the optimization function.
Yeah.
So you're optimizing the agent and its evolution function. Yeah, and they get some very good results. So this is kind of the graph where DGM, and the blue line on top is how good the hyper agents are. So that's like basically day and night. Check it out.
Number
Hyper
go up.
agents.
Yeah.
Number go up a lot.
Okay.
Another paper that is definitely worth reading because it's kind of at the heart of the transformer architecture is a paper. It's pretty theoretical paper, but it has a lot of very practical implications from the Chinese Moonshot AI Lab, which are the people behind Kimi. And they published this paper called Attention Residuals, which kind of solves this problem that in the transformer architecture, you have this residual connections, and they show how that just wastes an enormous amount of computation and actually limits the capabilities of the models. So they have a solution for that they call attention residuals, and they have some clever tricks with that, where they can show that actually with the 1.25 less compute, so 25% less compute, you can achieve the same accuracy, or with the same compute, a lot better scores. So I think this is an example of why a lot of these Chinese open source models are actually that good, because they focus on these type of architectural innovations, among other things.
Yeah, sometimes I'm disappointed that we're still using the transformer for almost everything. It's like 7 or 8 years old, but there's a lot of like little innovations going on every detail.
Little tricks all over the place, worth watching. And I think this is a big one. So I think it shows there's still a lot of ground to cover with better architectures. And the last one kind of brings it back to the theme that I think is sovereignty is basically about safety in some sense. And this paper is much worth reading. How vulnerable are AI agents to indirect prompt injections? And it's kind of a red teaming study where people tried all kinds of different ways to hide information inside HTML of web pages, inside emails read by, or documents read by agents. And actually the attacks were very successful. So I think this is a good wake-up call. You see that different models have different levels of safety here. And for Gemini, this is 2.5, so it's not the latest. Quite a lot of these attacks succeeded, whereas for Anthropic, actually, it was very good. So.
Yeah, it's a very hard problem to tackle, prompt injection. Like, it's so fundamental to the way these systems work. It is,
So if you look kind of on the longer scale of sovereignty, like safety is like the now, I think, right? If your system stops working because it was hijacked, that's very bad.
Or leaks your data. That's even worse. Yeah.
Well, those people who are using
Speaking about leaking data.
those people who are using OpenClaw, who think
Yeah.
that running their own models locally and doing their laundry for them and all their tasks, yeah, they're in a different side of the experimental spectrum.
Yes.
I just want to point out this quote from a recent vulnerability report from Sans Institute, which says there are no vulnerabilities in OpenClaw. OpenClaw is the vulnerability. But it's a very interesting concept. Another way to look at safety and autonomy and sovereignty is the recent Wuhan robotaxi outage, where in the middle of the evening in heavy traffic, I think which company was it? Was it well,
sorry,
one of the Chinese
I did see the video.
Chinese robotaxi companies. Basically, their entire fleet just
Stopped.
hit the brakes very hard and stopped right there and didn't let the people out of the taxi. So they were trapped for multiple hours.
I saw the video. It was very scary because they stopped in the middle of the
Yeah,
highway.
you see like a collision, so somebody ran into them, and all the highways were jammed. So I think if you think about training your own local models, I think they were doing that, but it's not a guarantee for safety either. So
I don't know. I don't know.
that makes it all
There was a
relevant.
central component to this, right? That failed because they all failed at the same time.
So yeah, safety is a hard topic, and maybe Anthropic's Mythos would have debugged the system here. Who knows? All right, so that concludes our episode of Trends in AI for April. The Chinese robotaxis are kind of in the physical AI realm. We're going next to Hannover Messe, which is all about AI in industry, where we'll be introducing more good new stuff in Zeta Alpha, among others, teaching vision language models to understand 3D CAD models, which is very important in industry. And we'll have another panel of German experts from Ödif, Otto, and the Industrial AI podcast debating sovereignty for industry. So join us in Hanover or in the next episode online. Thanks for joining us here in Lab 42. Thanks, Edwin, for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was fun.